For years, I shot school sports using a rig like this. Big, heavy, expensive. And then something happened. A 225-pound linebacker missed the runner he was trying to tackle along the sidelines, came flying into me, hit me shoulder pad to shoulder, tearing 3 tendons and the biceps. I went flying, my 2 cameras went flying, my glasses flew off, and I ended up flat on my back along the sidelines. The runner ran by me, managed to talk to a few girls there, and then came back and helped me up, so that was nice of him. But what that decided me was that I would switch this out for this, mostly because I couldn't lift this anymore for a couple of months with the condition my shoulder was in. This is the Sony A6000 with the 55 to 210 millimeter kit lens. Now, to say that this does what this does is pretty accurate. This gives you a little more reach. With a crop sensor, you get about a 750 millimeter range looking across the field, which is good enough for the far sideline in football or soccer, or you can shoot the outfield. This, using the clear image zoom, can go up to about a 630, surprisingly. A lot of people don't know about the clear image zoom and how you can use it in sports, but it can be done. So that's why I switched. So let's take a look at what was in my bag and what I switched from to go lighter and faster and less expensive to the Sony. Going from the bag to the table, there was camera, couple lenses, flashes, another lens, another camera, another lens, and the large lens that I showed you earlier. All these things were replaced by a much smaller rig. So let's put all the old Nikon stuff back in the bag where it'll probably sit for a while and get to just what I replaced all these cameras, flashes, lenses, all this stuff with. I think you'll see how I much simplified my life. So here's my bag now. Let's take a look at what's inside. Typically, when I first show up at a job to shoot school sports, I'll take a team photo. For that, I'll use the kit lens. The kit lens is a 16 to 50 f3.5 to 5.6. Now this is a lens that has a bad reputation, sometimes deservedly so. With mine, I find that I get sharpness all through the image, except for the upper right-hand corner. A lot of other people have said that all of the corners are soft, but not with mine for some reason. With mine, I get softness in the upper right-hand corner, so I have to compensate for that by maybe allowing a lot of space on the sides of the team photo so that I don't get somebody's head looking like a big blur. I use this also for headshots, smaller group shots of captains, individual shots of seniors, things like that. I'll also use it right under the basket when I'm shooting basketball for a wide shot. If somebody's coming in for a dunk or something like that, and you want to see the reactions of all the players and the dunk itself, this is a good camera for that. It shoots 11 frames per second. This camera was not my original A6000. I bought this used for about $300, and it seems to work fine. It does a good job, just as the other camera does. It has other uses. You can shoot an overall view of an arena, a sports arena, a big football field, things like that if you want a more panoramic view. So that's what I use this kit lens for. Next, if I'm generally outside, as I've already mentioned, I'll use this 55 to 210 lens. With the crop sensor, that gives you about a 315 millimeter lens for shooting sports, which isn't bad. But I use the clear image zoom, which doubles the 315 to about a 630. To do that, you have to turn on the clear image zoom and the zoom function, and then you can shoot way across the field, get real close-ups, and pretty much shoot anything where you need a long-range lens. Now, when I go indoors, it's a different story. To do that, you need a low light lens, so I have two of those. I got the 50 millimeter f1.8 and the 85 millimeter f1.8. I use these for shooting basketball, wrestling, swimming, any sport indoors. Volleyball too. You get some nice shots with volleyball. Remember, when you're shooting sports, you want to have a shutter speed of around 1/500th of a second. The problem is that indoors you generally don't have enough light to do that with a lens like this, the big kit lens, or even the smaller kit lens when it's extended. So what I do is I put on generally the 85. I always use the lens hood because that gives you better photos, I think. And with the 85, with the crop sensor, you get angle of view of about 127.5 millimeters. Now, using the clear image zoom, you can double that to a 255 millimeter f1.8, which is outrageous. That's a great reach for that length. Then you can use this lens to get some real close-ups in swimming or basketball, or you can use it outside, and you'll get some great shots of night football, night soccer, or anything you have to shoot at night. Powder puff football, that's another thing. I shot a freezing late November night powder puff football game with this, and I could use it at 1/500th of a second in f1.8 to get some good results. If I need flash for an indoor team photo or anything else, I don't often use flash. I'll slip on the Godox TT685S and use that. I generally use bounce flash almost no matter what the situation. This has a nice white card you can pop up and use and get some nice catch light in the eyes of the players you're photographing or the team. You might ask why I continue to do sports photography after being severely injured. Now I have to tell you a story about the bravest sports photographer I ever saw. I was photographing college girls' tennis from on top of a hill, shooting downward, with a man who was appeared to be severely disabled. I think he had suffered through the thalidomide problem. If you don't know, years ago thalidomide was a drug that was given to pregnant mothers, and it caused birth defects. Well, this man, sorry to say, had no arms, but he had hands on each of his shoulders. Now, how do you photograph like that? Well, that's why I say he was the bravest photographer I ever saw. He had his camera on top of a tripod and was manipulating it by moving back and forth with those small hands on top of the tripod. I figured that if he could do something like that, I could recover from my injury with the help of a smaller, lighter, faster camera. So that's where my inspiration came from. I just wanted to let you know that you can keep doing sports photography as you're older, and even if you're a little bit injured, and even if you're as brave as this man I told you about, if you have a severe disability. Anyway, that's about it. That's why I'm still using the A6000 to shoot sports.